Alright guys, Pterodactyl here. Today I want to give you my thoughts on what EA and DICE should do to make Battlefield 7, or whatever they're going to call it, awesome. Because 2042, as we know, was a complete disaster. Battlefield 5 disappointed a lot of people. I enjoy it, but I do recognise the problems and the faults that the game has. But with Battlefield 7, they need to make up for so much wrong that 2042 did. So in no particular order, I want to go over some points, and for the first one, get rid of the specialists. The specialists are an absolute failure of 2042, and really it's sort of come out that the only reason that the specialists were in the game is because EA wanted to compete with like hero shooters, the Warzone specialists. It doesn't fit the Battlefield like formula or feel. In Battlefield, you're meant to be part of an army, not like a mercenary guy. So bring back, you know, actual like soldier guys, not these mercenary people. Get rid of specialists. We don't want them. Get rid of them. I don't care what you're doing for 2042. I'm not going back to that. I'm not going to infect my PC with that game anymore. But get rid of specialists. And for gun handling, traditionally, Battlefield has used Bloom, which is where when you're shooting your rifle or whatever, your bullet won't come straight out of your rifle. It will sort of come out and then go off to the side or up and down around your sight, which doesn't happen at all. Your bullet comes straight out the rifle when you fire it, but Bloom doesn't make sense at all. Imagine if you bought a rifle and it did just shoot off target all the time, because that's pretty much what Bloom is. Get rid of Bloom, go back to how Battlefield 5 did it, where your bullet will actually go where you're aiming as you recoil upwards. That was the best gunplay in the Battlefield series. And I will stand on that hill, right? I will stand on that hill. Battlefield 5 has the best gunplay out of any Battlefield series. Go back to that. It was the best. Also, reduce the player count. 128 players, at least in 2042, just doesn't work. That could also be because of the map size, right? But I think for Battlefield 7, reduce it down not to 64 but to 100. Make it 50 v 50 and make the maps like just the right size for that amount of players, so there's not huge amount of gaps in between like control points and stuff. Which, you know, also is my next point, reduce the map size so it actually works for 100 players. There's other benefits to reducing the player count and the map size, because having more players and a bigger map, it puts this extra load onto the game or onto the server and reduces like the density of what you can have. If you look at, say, smaller games, you'll probably have a lot more interactable objects or physics-based objects just dotted around. But if you notice in Battlefield 2042, there's a lot less of that because there's so much just empty nothing. Also, the destruction got just, completely wiped out 2042. Reduce the player count, reduce the map size, increase the density of the maps and the destruction. And with the destruction, improve it, right? Battlefield 5 a pretty good destruction. Battlefield Bad Company 2 a good destruction where you could completely level buildings. Go back to something like that, but then also ramp it up just like a little bit more. Destruction was a huge part of the Battlefield franchise when it moved to Battlefield 3 and the Frostbite engine. Bring it back. People loved it. Don't do what 2042 did. Bring back destruction. You could also bring back Levolution to certain maps, I would say, because having this one big event on the map, which is player controlled, by destroying a tower, destroying a dam, something like that, which then completely changes the map, would be just another awesome thing to have back in Battlefield, right? Because it gives you that slight sort of variation on that map. You could play through the map without that tower falling down, say on Siege of Shanghai. You could play through it, the tower stand throughout the entire game, or you can knock the tower down and it changes the middle of the map. Bring back Levolution. They should also go back to having 6 players per squad. I have no idea why they kept changing this throughout the series. Go back to 6. I think 6 is a good middle ground. Games like Squad have up to 9 players. I don't think you need that for Battlefield. In Squad, there's a lot more sort of roles, and you need these certain roles to fulfill certain things, right? But in Battlefield, you don't really need that, and you can just quickly change roles a lot more. So go back to 6. And talking about roles, actually bring the roles back. Like I said, get rid of specialists, go back to roles, and increase the amount of roles. Again, something Battlefield has been doing throughout its history is you started with this like large amount of roles. I think the most it had was in Battlefield 2 maybe, and they've just been cutting them down more and more. Now we have what, 4, I think. Go back to 6, and what these roles should be is assault, support, anti-tank, medic, sniper, and engineer, and give them unique pieces of equipment or unique weapons for those roles to make them stand out, and actually make the roles look different in terms of their like skins and whatever you can do with them. Make it so you can easily identify when you're playing the game who that soldier is. Is it a sniper? Is it an anti-tank? Without looking at its actual weapon, just based on the skin. Bring it back. Also, have no hero skins like in Battlefield 5. While I think they weren't too bad, maybe. I've never really played as any of the hero skins or bought any because I just didn't want to. Get rid of them, right? We don't need these heroes. I know Daddy EA wants their money, but what you should do instead is look at World War 3. And World War 3 has a ton of customization options, not just for your character, but for your weapons as well. And because you have so many different options, say in World War 3 you can individually change, you know, like your jacket, but then put a certain skin on that jacket and have different trousers on and put a different skin on those trousers. That could let EA put more microtransactions in, which they would like if you go down that route. And I think you should go down that route in terms of the customization. Make sure there's a lot of like free customization or customization options that can be unlocked through challenges or whatever you do. Maybe even a battle pass you could do, I suppose. And looking at the weapons, again on World War 3, there's a ton of like attachment options you can do. Now, Battlefield has been known for really pushing the conquest mode forward into, I'll say, pretty much every game. I mean, really, conquest is just domination on a larger scale, but from memory, I think Battlefield was probably the first game I played like a conquest style mode in, and they should make conquest the main star of the game. I know 2042 has All Out Warfare, that is just conquest, right? But don't give us any gimmicky modes. Don't have a battle royale, don't have an extraction royale. Focus on what Battlefield does great, which is conquest. But I also think for that added variation, put a big focus on the operations mode as well, which is just, you know, the attack versus defense with different objectives throughout the map. Just focus on those. Don't have battle royale or extraction royale. Give us what Battlefield is good at. When 2042 released, it had barely any maps and a laughable selection of weapons. It is really terrible. When Battlefield 7 releases, give us a large selection of maps plus a ton of weapons per category. So I mean, a good amount of assault rifles, SMGs, LMGs, shotguns, sniper rifles, launchers, sidearms, whatever categories you're going to have, make sure there's a good amount in there. And make sure you then also have other weapons and maps in the pipeline ready to come in. If you look at the content release schedule for previous Battlefields, like Battlefield 4, Battlefield 5, and then look at 2042, Jesus Christ, you can see how much new content got added to the game quite quickly. You need to have this ready for the next Battlefield to, you know, to please the fans, to make up for how bad 2042 was. Everyone loves getting like a stealthy melee kill from behind, taking some dog tags, right? Everyone loves it, apart from 2042, where they have, what, the one execution move. I think there's a couple of others you can unlock. But when you go up to someone who's prone on the ground, hit your melee button, and then it makes them stand up, and you do the one single melee kill, it's shit. What Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 did was have different types of melee weapons. Like, I remember using the cricket bat a lot in Battlefield 5, but they had different execution moves based on where you were standing in relation to your target and what position they were in, whether they were prone or crouched. Put that back into Battlefield 7. I have no idea why 2042 removed it. You know, a Battlefield sequel is meant to be like an upgrade, at least, to the previous one. You're not meant to remove loads of stuff. Bring back the varied executions, bring back more variation of melee weapons as well, and put unique melee executions in for those different weapons, and put unique execution moves in for those weapons as well. Traditionally, pretty much every Battlefield game has been released too early. If you were to look back at news articles or statements released by EA pretty much apologized for every single Battlefield release, saying that next time we'll do better or we'll learn from this. Bollocks, right? They mess up all the time. So EA, whatever release date you have in mind for the next Battlefield, add at least a year onto that release date. If you push out Battlefield 7 too early, you're dead, right? Your franchise is dead. You cannot have any repeat issue of 2042 in with your next Battlefield. Make sure there's no bugs. I mean, there's going to be some bugs, but try to get rid of as many bugs as possible for it. Make sure you have no latency or server issues, and also have actual beta tests. Having a beta like a month before the game comes out is not a beta, it's a demo, right? You need beta tests maybe up to a year before the game comes out, so you can get as much data as possible from players, you know, player feedback, which you can then take on and put into the game before the game comes out. And also you can get all the bug reports from the players, because the players are going to play the game completely differently to how you've been testing, because there's so many more players than your testers, right? Players are going to find more stuff. Get all those bug reports in, find balance issues before the game's out, so when the game comes out, it's actually in a good state. I do think EA and DICE can bring Battlefield back, but it's going to take a lot of work and investment from both of them. Part of me doesn't think EA will do it. Part of me thinks EA will just kick it out to die and then close down DICE. It's what they've done to loads of other developers. They buy the developer, get involved too much with the IP, and make bad decisions, which then leads to bad products, and then they close down the studios. But it's been EA's fault. Let's just hope that doesn't happen with Battlefield and DICE. That's been my thoughts on what they can do for Battlefield 7. If you like the video, please give it a like, subscribe for more. Thank you for watching.